Good morning. This is Erin with the Department of Medicaid. It is not quite 10 o'clock and we're still clearing the waiting room, so we'll give it just a few minutes before we get started.
Hey, Wayne.
Morning, Johnny.
Hey, Wayne,
Yes.
this is Dave Hanna.
Hey,
Can you hear
David,
me?
how's it going?
All right. I just wanted to let you know I've got a short announcement at the end. So when you get to that part of the agenda.
Okay.
Wayne, we've got a couple TAC members trickling in, and then our waiting room should be clear. So
Okay, great. Just
currently, I have yourself, Johnny, Ann, and I believe I saw Doug and Brad logging in, so they should be with us in just a moment.
okay.
Okay, your waiting room is clear if you would like to begin. I'll hand it over to you guys, and you do have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. The first thing I wanted to do today before we get into the agenda is to just have a moment of silence for the tornado victims. I mean, London and Laurel County got hit with an F4 on May the 16th, and it was devastating to this community. So if we could just observe about a 10 or 15-second moment of silence for them, please. Thank you. Thank you. All right, with the agenda, the next thing up on the agenda itself is the approval of the previous meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to entertain approval of the minutes?
So move.
Thank you, Doug. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion of the minutes themselves? All right, all TAC members in favor of approval of the meeting minutes, just say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
And Wayne, just for the record, Melanie has joined us as well.
Oh,
And
great. Thanks,
Sherry
Melanie.
is,
I thought she was going to have a hard time joining us this morning.
and
She
it
emailed
looks like
earlier.
Sherry is also coming in. Sorry about that.
All right, great. Good. Good. We'll have a full house. All right. Next thing up on the agenda is old business, and we'll get started with the family's first initiative update. Do we have somebody from the cabinet, Aaron, that's going to join us and respond to those?
I am scrolling. Give me just a moment.
Aaron, so I'm here for Carmen today. I was asked a couple minutes ago if I could cover this meeting for her, but I'm not sure if anybody is on from the commissioner's office that wants to speak to this.
I don't see anybody, Alicia. So if you
Okay, we'll
have one,
just-
that would be great. Thank you.
I mean, we'll get started with what I know. So I can tell you the Families First Initiative, there was the budget bill that had approved for a 1915C waiver for a certain amount. And that is being worked on as part of the I'll call it the first round or initial phase, maybe might be a better wording, but they are working on a waiver for the children, and that's being worked on with a vendor right now. That should be coming out hopefully soon for public comment, and just make sure that you are receiving all of our emails and all of that, because anytime anything is put out for public comment, we do share that far and wide so that we can receive comments from you all on that. That's about the only thing as far as that I am aware of on the Families First Initiative. During the initial meeting, I know that they were going to talk about having some work groups and stuff like that. I've not heard anything else on that, but just keep your ears and eyes peeled for additional information as it becomes available.
Okay, any questions in regards to that? General updates of Medicaid 2025 initiatives. Alicia, I guess you've got that one as well.
I guess I have everything basically. A couple things I won't have on here. I do have other team members, but I don't really have anything updates for any of that right now. So not much I can, I guess, share on that.
Anybody have any specific questions in reference to that agenda item?
I just had one, Wayne.
Sure, go ahead.
And Alicia, you may not know the answer to this, and that's
Okay.
fine, especially since you just got 5 minutes notice to be in this meeting. Is there anything, any big changes that anyone should expect happening July 1st in anticipation of the new fiscal year?
So
Other
we
than
do
slots. Obviously, there's new slots
the
coming.
slot. I was going to say that's the big change that people are going to see is the slots, and we will be phasing those in. We're not going to drop 500 on anybody, right? Because that's just going to create a bottleneck. So we are going to try to do that. I believe it was. Oh, and I'm going to let Elizabeth correct me if I'm wrong, but over 6 months is how we are going to phase those in, because we don't want to create more bottleneck for our providers, for the members, getting a slot, and we want things to be seamless for them.
I don't know if Kathy or Blair,
And
either
oh,
one on here, that's their baby. So
okay.
I am
Sorry,
on, and
Elizabeth. I just saw you. And we do have a link actually that that information's posted, and I can get Kelly from our team to actually post that.
I
In
know,
the
I know there's a
chat.
phase in, but Blair will be able to.
Yeah, what you said was correct, Alicia. It's going to be
Okay.
about 85 a month over 6 months, so that for Michelle P at least, so that
Yes.
nobody gets too much all at once that can't be allocated and initiated promptly.
And I do see that Kelly has already put that in the chat for everybody. So, but Amy, to answer your question, that's the big 7-1 change.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
This is Melanie. Can I ask a
Go ahead,
question?
Melanie.
I keep listening to I know I might not be able to speak, Alicia, what's going on federally, but it's the big beautiful bill has hit the Senate, and there's all kinds of dialogue right now in terms of impact to Medicaid. And if there is any kind of changes that would come to our state How would that roll out? I mean, would you be able to share that information? Because I'm hearing that the plan is to have things in motion by July the 4th. And I don't know if that would cause changes in terms of how we're serving the population, IDD population in Kentucky.
So I do not have any specific information that I can share on that, but I can tell you that our executive staff, they are reviewing that, keeping up with the changes, and there is, communication among them. I've been in a couple meetings where that has been discussed, but we're going to have to see what kind of shakes out, right?
Yeah.
And then it might be changes that don't really affect our population with waivers. It might be, the other side, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But I think there's just a lot of unknowns right now, and not something that I don't have any definitive information to provide.
Okay.
But we'll be sharing. Okay.
Oh, I know. And if we
Anytime
could
something, we'll
possibly
let
put this
everybody know.
on, possibly put that on future agendas, just to kind of keep us in the loop as much as possible. It would be really appreciated.
Any other questions or anything on that particular agenda item for Alicia?
Wayne, I was just going to say to Melanie, if she wants to email me, I have a presentation about this that I can share with you regarding impact if you want to scroll through that. So if
Oh.
you'll email me, I just put my email in the chat related to something else, but I'll send it to you if you want to review that.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or feedback? Okay, involuntary termination summary report. I think Elizabeth usually does that for us.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Wayne, this is Ann. I had to figure out how to unmute myself. But I have a comment on that last topic.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, actually, I wanted to address Patty Talbert's question in the chat and wondered if instead of her having to look up past meetings, if someone could address her question.
Wayne, give me.
Are you
Oh.
referring to any guidance for families who have those that are turning 19 who end up losing Medicaid coverage due to needing to change to adult long-term care, which also ends up pausing waiver services? This has been an issue for at least 13 years, as I was one of the first case managers to deal with this at my former job as a case manager. It can be really confusing for families. Do we have Jordan Griffith on from DMS? She is our eligibility expert, or anybody from her team.
I don't see Jordan on. I can grab that question out of the chat and get it to her and get an answer. Terry, if you don't mind to drop your email address in the chat for me.
And I do know that there is.
Yes, I will.
Thank you, Terry. And I do know that there has been work done on this because to try to be proactive and let people know. I just don't have that in front of me, and that's something that Jordan definitely can probably just rattle off the top of her head. So thank you, Aaron, on that.
Any other questions before we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, involuntary termination summary report.
Yes, so total number of involuntary terminations in the last year is at 56. Total number of involuntary terminations in the last year, specifically for residential services, is 40. And of the total involuntary terminations in the last 6 months for all services, for 28. Does that hit? I feel like I've got duplicative things here, so.
How many have been terminated from residential that's over a year old? Elizabeth, that's usually part of that.
Actually, I don't think that is the information that I pulled, but I can get that before the end of the meeting.
Okay.
I think we just generally go back to last year. But I do know that there are some that have been out there over a year.
And part of the information requested was also how many remain with the provider.
So of the total involuntary terminations not yet transitioned in the last year, that stands at 23.
Okay. Anybody got any questions for Elizabeth on that particular
Okay.
report?
Wayne, I did just want to note for the TAC that at the April 1st IDD TAC meeting, that number of not transitioned was also 23. So it seems like that has remained the same in the last 2 months.
Wayne, this is Ann.
Yeah.
Do we know why they're not transitioned?
Elizabeth, do we have any idea?
I would have to go back and look at the report, but typically the reason they have not transitioned is because another provider has not accepted them for services.
Okay.
And do we know why they're not accepted?
Again, I don't have that specific data in front of me, but I can mention, I would say typically, the agency doesn't feel like, or the agency that's being referred to does not feel like they can meet their needs based on behavioral needs or health related needs, or I'd say the top couple of reasons. And again, that's a generalized, since I don't have that data in front of me.
I wonder, is there anything we can do about that? I mean, it seems like these people are obviously not getting what they need. So, I mean, just leaving them in that condition doesn't seem right. Are y'all checking into that?
Our quality administrators who are in the field work very closely with the agencies who are continuing to support those individuals. Just in terms of making sure the monitoring piece, making sure that things are still going as they need to be for that individual, and offering any technical assistance that might help them either to be able to continue the services well with them, and or finding other providers to serve them.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Elizabeth on that?
I have one. Elizabeth, are you saying that the QAs responsible for the areas where some of those folks might reside are helping to try to find another provider?
No, not necessarily. Now, as far as if an agency is making referrals and they're not getting any responses back from another agency, that QA may write, if they're the QA for that agency, they might get with that particular agency and say, hey, we know referrals are being made. Could you please, make sure that you reviewed the packet, or get back with this agency, either with a yes or no kind of thing. Or they might reach out to that agency's other, if they have a different quality administrator, they may reach out to them and say, hey, we know this referral is probably sitting on a desk over there. Could you please make sure that they at least review it and provide comment? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome.
As a provider of one of those folks who are probably in that 23 number, I think we have been supporting that person after having given notice for probably a year and a half, maybe going on 2 years now. are there any things that DDID or the cabinet or anybody is doing to take a look at these 23 people and try to figure out a solution?
Those are based on the needs of the individual and their team. We aren't, our role is in monitoring and ensuring that people's health, safety, and welfare needs are being met. That's one of the roles that we play. We certainly are, you know, if asked to, we'll provide technical assistance, or give ideas for planning, or can give feedback on what is being submitted to other agencies in terms of, you know, the information that another agency is receiving. You know, sometimes those packets, you know, really depict somebody in a way that wouldn't be as favorable, just because, you know, we've done a lot of work on person-centered profiles and ensuring that people's very best, you know, not their very worst, is, you know, the first thing that people see. So we can provide feedback in that, but we cannot, our role is not to be that of a team member or to be, you know, working with other agencies to ask them to accept referrals, if that makes sense. That's not something that we would be able to be involved in.
So are you suggesting that maybe the packet of information that is provided not include all of those very real, I guess, details?
No, I'm not suggesting that at all. What I am saying is that the way a packet is presented and their participant summaries and things of that nature, if the only thing that people see is the worst, then they're not going to be as inclined to look further into that referral packet. My experience.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Elizabeth on that?
Blaine, may I interject?
Sure.
I think, you know, we have been talking about this issue since I first came into this role in July of 2019, so over 5 years now, and absolutely nothing has changed. And when I think the fact of the matter remains that when a provider is raising their hand saying that I can no longer support this individual's health, safety, and welfare, and their health, safety, and welfare is not secure while they are under my care because I cannot do that, that individuals at the cabinet cabinet for health and family services, I don't really care what agency that is, do have a responsibility to help assist to ensure that that individual's health, safety, and welfare is secured. And I think providers have been begging and pleading for years for help with this, and no one is willing to help. And it's becoming, and has been for quite some time, dangerous for staff, for the individual, and everyone else involved in the caregiving of individuals who have very intense support needs. And, you know, I think that we've been begging for solutions and have offered quite a few of our own, and something has got to be done. You know, it's just untenable at this point.
Any other comment, feedback, questions?
There is a comment/question from Patty in the chat. It says, as far as residential, has there been any look at capacity of agencies? As I'm wondering if places cannot accept clients due to being at capacity or low on staff.
Elizabeth, you got any feedback on that comment?
To my knowledge, there's not been a study. Again, anything I would say is generalized. well, I'm not even going to really do it, because it would just be Elizabeth's thoughts and not actual fact-based, but that's certainly something that I know we have discussed in the past, to get some numbers together for actual capacity. And we just recently completed our provider surveys. And so there could be some data gleaned through that as well, that we may be able to speak to that better.
Okay. Aaron, do you see anybody else's hand up or anything? I know you can see a lot more people than I can.
I do not. I think we're okay.
Can I just make one more comment? I want to
Sure.
speak to, and elaborate a little bit on a point that Amy made just a second ago, that when a provider, and I'm going to only speak for Cedar Lake here, but I would imagine if I asked some of my colleagues, they would agree. When a provider has to decide that they can no longer support somebody and can't keep that person safe, it puts them at risk. And it puts them at risk for abuse and neglect. It puts them at risk for law enforcement involvement. It puts the people that they live with at risk. And Amy mentioned staff. It puts staff at risk and puts them in a position of having to make decisions that, the certification trainings that we receive just don't prepare us for. So we're collecting this data and we're talking about this data month after month after month, but if we don't do anything with the information that we collect and we don't use it for decision making, it's really not worth putting it on the agenda if we're not going to do anything about the information. Thank you for letting me make that point.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions in reference to involuntary terminations?
Wayne, this is Ann Skinner. If you don't mind me saying something, and I'm off camera here, I apologize for that. But this has been.
Hey, Ann, I don't know if you can speak if you're not putting your camera on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, she can.
I'm just kidding.
Nope.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead and say what you need to say.
I can tell you of a situation that occurred literally 20 years ago, of a gentleman who we were not given all of the information we needed to know and agreed to take this person on, who then sexually molested another participant. We wound up having to keep this gentleman in a hotel for 18 months, finally wound up filing a 202B. And he was institutionalized. But this is not a new discussion by any means. And honestly, this is the same discussion we had that the crisis teams were then born out of, but really never solved this problem by having the crisis teams. They've solved other problems, but not this one. So I agree with Elise. It would be really nice if someone got serious about what we do, because it puts so many people at risk. Staff are at risk. The person who is not being served well, and the agency is saying we're not serving them well, is at risk. And the other people that we serve are also at risk. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you,
Wayne,
Ann.
Wayne, can we make a motion that DMS study this issue and come up with some solutions?
Well, what are they exactly are they going to study? And I mean, we have to have parameters and what we're specifically looking at.
I don't know. Can someone help me here?
I think we've asked for and had different recommendations approved in the past in reference to studies, and that's what this summary report has been born out of.
If you have a study that makes recommendations to collect data, but not do anything with the data after you collect it, then like there's a next step there.
Wayne, I can put together, if it would be helpful, I can put together suggested a suggested motion for the members of the TAC and give it to you so you can circulate it, so that that language can be put forth at the next meeting, for approval by the members of the TAC and voting. That way we have something solid and good that does what it needs to do, etc. So we're not just trying to come up with something on the fly. Would that be helpful for the members of the TAC?
Yes, thank you, Amy.
Yeah, I think so.
Wait, this is Melanie. Thank you for that comment, Amy. I appreciate that. It does help me to understand the what the ability of the crisis team. I worked at University of Kentucky Healthcare Developmental Pediatrics and for many years, and we had a family that had recently lost one of the caregivers, and I tried repeatedly to reach out to the crisis team, and with not much luck. And so I just want to understand the kind of influence, power, clout that group has, because I think that's usually, if there's something going on in a high level intensity kind of situation, that would probably be who would be reached out to, and at that point in time. But I don't quite understand the ability of that group of individuals to be able to make changes or to move into action. So would that be information that we could also share or get, be provided, so we know kind of what that aspect of the ads, or I'm not sure which group it is, I can't remember, but what they're able to do or not do? Hello? Can you hear me?
I'm not sure if there's anyone from the community supports branch on here, but that would be who we would want to speak directly to that, maybe the process and how they get involved and kind of their role.
Okay.
When they're requested assistance.
Okay, thank you.
Melanie,
think-
this is Erin. I'll put that in my take back email, and
Okay.
we'll ask around and see if maybe there's some written guidance I can send to you guys,
Okay.
and then maybe put it on the agenda next time. And I can ask around about having someone possibly attend.
I'm just seeking to understand, and I just want to be talking with people that really are the with that group that could probably provide insight. Thank you. I appreciate that, Erin.
Welcome. And Rachel has her hand raised, Wayne.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Hi there, this is Rachel Rarick. I'm the manager of research and analytics at DMS. And just hearing all of the comments and learning this information, I'm not sure who is currently working on this at DMS, but I am very happy to work on this, come up with anything that you all might need research-wise, data-wise, and present that to you. I think that might be a good place. So definitely offering some assistance here with anyone else in DMS and DDID. Very happy to offer services in that arena.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
I think a thing that would be good also, Melanie, is if you could compose the different things that you want to know more about and send those to me in an email, we might be able to pursue those with the cabinet prior to the next meeting. And you could, have that information firsthand.
Let me put my humble thoughts into I've only got it from experience with some very intense individuals that I had exposure to, and also just living my life with somebody that's very special to me. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding, because we were trying really hard to provide a level of support to the family that reached out to us in developmental peds, but I I kept not getting where I needed to be. So I'm sure that that kind of support would be really appreciated by many families in the Kentucky.
Okay, any other questions on the involuntary termination summary report? Okay, next thing up is update regarding 1915C waiver list. Do we still have Alicia on?
Yeah, I was just making sure I was off mute. So the waiver waiting list, let me provide those numbers to you. So the total number on all of our wait list, across, every waiver, the unduplicated count is 15,522. And then our home and community based waiver has 4,569. Our Michelle P waiver has 9,492. Our SCL waiver has 3,633. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that they're not being served somehow. For the SEL, I think it was asked how many were on the urgent last time, and I just pulled that up. That is 63 participants on the urgent waiting list. There are none on the emergent.
Hey, Alicia, off the top of your head, in the last SEL application, and it may have been not the one with that that we submitted to incorporate the rates, but the one before that, that would have been
5124.
yeah, but maybe there have been so many.
I know.
There was a comment in that application that indicated that the Cabinet for Health and Family Services was slightly reducing the number of emergency slots based upon the utilization of those slots. And for those who don't know, once an emergency slot is flagged as an emergency slot, it can only be used for emergency purposes. It can't be used as a general slot in the slot pool. Do you know what the number of emergency slots we have just set aside every year is?
I do not have that in front of me. Kathy, do you have that by any chance in front of you? I hate to put her on the spot, and she probably doesn't have it.
No, it's okay.
I'll go in the application right now and find it.
Okay, that's what I was trying to do while we were talking. So
I'll look for
thank
it.
you, Kathy. I appreciate
Sure.
that.
Thank you. I was just curious, again, what the number of emergency slots was. I know what it used to be, but I did not know what it is now.
Gotcha. We can definitely get that, and Kathy can.
And I
put
think
that in the
part
chat.
of the reason that it was decreased was because of the increase in slots. And so then we were providing the allocations based also on urgent rather than only emergency.
Yes, that was my understanding as well. I just did not know what number of emergency slots we currently had.
Wayne, Johnny has his hand raised.
I see him. I was going to call on him. I was making sure everybody stopped talking.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, thank you. Alicia, of the on July 1, so new slots will be allocated. Will the 63 people in the urgent category that get waiver funding?
So it will not just be, I'm sorry, Alicia, you don't mind me jumping in and answering, do you?
Or
No,
Kathy,
Kathy.
yeah.
No, Kathy's
okay.
Yeah, I didn't know
Okay.
if they would.
Yeah, so it's not going to be just an automatic, all of a sudden, everyone in the urgent category will get it because of the regulations that require that we have already looked at adaptive behavior and all of that. So some people, we will need a new adaptive behavior assessment. And but we do have staff already working on looking to see who we need it for, letting them know to get it in so that they can be allocated as quickly as possible.
Okay, if I could have a follow-up, assuming that all 63 had the requested information in hand to the department and still met the criteria for urgent category. So they would be prioritized and get funding in this next round of slots allocations because they are in urgent need by definition. That's
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes,
Okay. All right. Thank you. I just wanted to
you're
clarify
welcome.
that.
Sure.
And Kathy, I found the emergency need. It's 228, Amy, for years 1 through 5.
So that's 228 over 5 years or
Each
each
year.
year for 5 years?
Each year.
Okay, thank you.
And Alicia, can you also just refresh us what constitutes someone to be eligible to be in those lists?
You
Are
want
you talking about?
the urgent list? What
Yeah.
what puts somebody urgent? What puts them in emergency? What puts them in the futures category? You want to break that down for us, Kathy, real quick, or?
Yes, and so I can give you a quick verbal and then I can post the regulations in the
That's
chat.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So so for emergency, it's that they would be homeless, they have no caregiver, they need services immediately. For urgent, it's that it's known that they would get, be likely in that emergency category within a year. That's just paraphrasing. I will post the actual regulations in the chat in just a moment.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's and just while you're doing that, Kathy, like threatened loss of existing funding income sources. They're in temporary or inappropriate placement, but the health and safety is assured. There's a few more things in there as well, but each of those categories is laid out in the regulation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on that particular item? Alicia, are you going to do the PDS update also?
I'm actually
Wayne?
gonna turn, oh, sorry. go
Patty
ahead.
raised, I'm sorry, Alicia. Patty raised her hand really quick.
Okay, I didn't see her. Go ahead, Patty.
Sorry, I'm at home with my toddler, so I'm not gonna show my face. How do the urgent ones get labeled as urgent? Is that through just the normal application process, or like how does, because I've only known of emergency because I've had to deal with clients in emergency situations. I didn't really know about this urgent category until I started attending these meetings. So I just didn't know, like, how does one get labeled, I guess, as an urgent?
It is through the application review, and then also if a request for emergency has been submitted, but and that's reviewed also to determine category.
Okay, thank you.
And Wayne, I'm actually going to turn this next portion over to Misty Wright. She's having some technical difficulties this morning, just with her bandwidth or whatever. So I'm going to tell her she can stay off camera. If she can't get through it, then I will pick up and finish that for her. But
Sure.
Misty, I'll turn that over to you.
Can everybody hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. The bandwidth thing has been an issue today. So for PDS, we've got this listed as PDS services, wait lists, specific wait lists for services on the agenda. One of the things that I want to address that we have talked about in other TACs and the MAC meeting is that what we maintain is an interest list. It's not a standard wait list that we see people coming on and off of. The interest list itself is what we have received from the different people, or not different people, different groups and different providers. They send the interest list into us and that stays on the list. We don't remove those from this list. So at any point in time on this interest list, You will have people who have gone active that have been marked as going active, but you can have people as far back as when this list started in March of 2023 still showing on the interest list because they are waiting for a specific provider or a specific individual to get authorized. So I want us to look at this as an interest list that has been provided to us from the various providers, and we're maintaining a way to connect with the individuals until they can get to go forward. So if the waiting list portion itself is going to be with each of the different providers. They're the ones that's going to know who's next and where they are for those PDS services. So as of the end of May, I will be working on the fresh stuff. We just got our fresh June report. You all being at the first of the month. I'm so sorry I don't have those freshest numbers, but we have currently got off of this interest list 1,207 individuals who have actually gone to active services. We currently show 775 still listed in a state of interest, but of that 775, 449 are actually getting traditional services. The various reasons have been looked at. The majority of the interest that don't do traditional services are people who are honestly just waiting for a specific group to be approved and or a specific individual to be approved for their services. Or they just aren't ready to move yet. They like what they're doing. So there's nothing that when we looked at that list shows anything that is more of a delay on that for those 300 individuals. We had 64 people actually notify us that they were no longer interested. And over all of these years, 259 people have had waivers closed for various reasons. For ABI LTC, we have 2 people listed as active and none currently listed in interest. ABI Acute has a total of 4, 1 interested and 1 no longer interested, 1 with a waiver closed and 1 with a waiver active. So we have 1 in each category there. Home and community-based services, we had a total of 2,213. We have 1,165 of those individuals went active with PDF services. We also have 731 still showing as interested, with 417 of those using traditional services. With Michelle P., we had a total of 81 on this list, with 37 of them going active over the years and 39 still showing in a state of interest. And with SCL, we have 4 on this list, 2 interested and 2 active. And of the 2 who are interested, they are getting traditional services. So they are being served, but they're waiting for PDS. Are there any questions on those numbers or?
Any questions?
Thank you so much. That's really great. Those are really great numbers. Really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And I will just say, it's only as good as the information that we receive.
That was going to be what my next statement was. If you all are aware, excuse me, if you all are aware of people who are saying they're on a waiting list, please make sure that they have clarified with their provider that they're on the waiting list there and that we have received that interest form. And they'll go straight to this list and I can give you better numbers the next time.
Aaron, do you see anybody else's hand up or anything?
I do not.
Okay. Thank you so much for those numbers. That was very informative. Next item up on the agenda is medical marijuana. We were just looking to see if there's been any further updates in reference to the cabinet stance or guidance in reference to providers and people that will be dealing with that.
I don't have anything further. I know that we've talked about it being federally illegal in the past, and we actually met with legal a while back, and I believe our director Carmen had sent a follow-up email on that, but I don't have any further information at this time on that subject.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that before we move on? Okay, under new business, we have listed children inappropriately removed from waivers. And I know this is something that came up from several different providers. Amy, do you want to speak to that before we have CHFS respond?
Sure. I think that, and number one, I just want to say that the bullet point was not intended to like pass blame or anything like that. But I think the Cabinet for Health and Family Services issued a statement acknowledging that some very specifically children had been inappropriately determined that they no longer met the level of care for certain waiver services. And there was a little bit of discussion about this at the MAC meeting a few weeks ago, if anyone tuned into that. But some of that discussion centered upon new contractors being involved who were reviewing, doing the level of care, etc. And I was hoping we could just get a little bit more information about that, as the cabinet has obviously done some digging, done some investigation. We have heard that some of those, anecdotally, that some of those decisions have been reversed, which is good news for those families. I'm just, again, just hoping to get more information about that.
So we did receive some complaints about children being terminated or not meeting level of care up on their reassessment. Carmen, our director, worked with the vendor, and they reviewed every single one of those children. And several of those were overturned. Those overturned letters have already went out to those families. And, you know, if somebody was not overturned and they had requested a hearing, they're going to continue to stay in their hearing status, all of that. So I believe that, you know, important work has been done, right? And that we have kind of corrected or went back and looked at the regulations, looked at everything, and that things should be more streamlined in the future. And this was only with HCB. This wasn't with Michelle P. or anything like that. It was just with the HCB program.
Do you have any idea of what the impact was, you know, like less than 20, more than 20, like any ballpark?
I do have the numbers. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm gonna say, oh, I hate to even guess, you all. I feel like I'm setting myself up for failure. Um, it was a little over 100 that were overturned. And again, these are guesses. These are not the specific numbers because I don't have them in front of me. And I want to say like 39 or 40 that were not, maybe.
Okay.
And Jordan Griffith just said 112 were overturned.
See, that was a good guess. A little
So,
over 100.
well, I mean, I've got like, emails, whatever, but I'm like, I don't have that number in front of me. So I'm hesitant to provide, but I wanted to let you know that it was definitely more than 20. And 39 denials upheld. There we go. Thank you, Jordan, for having that and throwing that in the chat for me.
Thank you. I
It's
think
hard to look at the camera and like over here and start looking up things.
no, it's okay. And thank you for being able to offer those numbers, because I think there's so much chatter about this issue, and obviously a lot of concern, and it seemed like it could have been a vastly widespread problem or a very small problem. So I don't think anybody had any context for exactly how widespread or not the situation was. So those numbers are definitely helpful in framing understanding of the situation. So I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. And Patty did put in the chat asking if adult cases were reviewed, those that were denied as well. And that is something we are looking at. We're looking at all cases. The big focus was on children because that's where we heard the big concern, right? So we wanted to start with them. But the next phase, we are reviewing the adults just to confirm on those as well. So there's a team working on that currently, actually.
Aaron, do you see anybody else's hand up on this issue?
I do not. Oh, we sent in the chat. One moment.
And
Were
so
new applications also reviewed?
the denials, yes, they are being reviewed.
Any other questions on this particular item? Okay, we're down to general discussion or announcements, and I know David Hanna indicated he had an announcement that he wanted to make. David, are you still on here?
Hey, I'm here, and this is very quick. I have worked with many of you for many years. Gosh, I've like 30 or 40 years with some of you. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm retiring. Friday will be my last day with Passport. And so I have really appreciated Wayne. You know, you and I have been through some uh, tough things together, and Johnny and Melanie and others who are on here. And I just wanted to say thank you for the companionship on this journey. And so that was it. David Crowley has been hired as the new BH director for Passport, and I would anticipate he will be here the next time. So thank you.
Well,
Good deal.
congratulations,
Congratulations,
Dr.
David.
Hanna.
Congrats, David.
Oh, go ahead, Johnny.
Hey, oh, thanks, Wayne. Well, yeah, first of all, yeah, congratulations, David. We'll miss having you around. I'm sure you'll tune into all of these in your retirement and comment on all of it. No, but enjoy. I did have one thing I wanted to bring up, Wayne, if it's okay, just in general discussion. And while we have Medicaid folks on here, and I know it's early, but the community engagement waiver that is underway for instituting work requirements, mainly for the expansion population. I was just, since we were talking about people being removed from waivers, there's always the danger in that with reporting of work requirements once the waiver gets underway. So I was just wondering from Medicaid folks, are there, preliminary activities going on at the department to guard against people with disabilities being, accidentally or unjustly removed from Medicaid because of just, reporting errors, or they shouldn't have been caught up in that in the first place due to a disability, those type things.
So Johnny, I'm not involved in any of the work requirements. That is being handled in the commissioner's office.
Okay.
But I do know that they have talked, about people with disabilities, that kind of thing. And, but I don't have really any information that I can share, just because I've not been, involved specifically in that work.
Okay. And then, okay, do you know if, I know when this was previously, attempted a few years back, if I remember correctly, I think anyone that was on a Medicaid waiver, any of the 6 waivers were automatically exempt or coded as exempt from that. And do you know if that will be the case again this time, so that they aren't accidentally,
I mean, I can't.
expected to report work
Right,
requirement?
no, I can't give you the specifics, just like I said, I've not been involved.
Okay.
But maybe, I don't know,
Hey, Alicia, it's Jordan. I
Aaron?
can speak a
Oh,
little bit to
oh,
it.
thank you, Jordan.
Yes, absolutely. There are going to be exemptions for individuals who meet the definition of age blind or disabled. That would also include individuals on waiver. They would be excluded from those requirements. Um, it is still new, and the process of CHFS determining exactly what that definition of meeting those exemptions will be is still in process. But overarching, yes, anyone who meets age blind disabled or who is in waiver would not be required to be involved in the community engagement.
And Jordan, do you mind, we had a question early on in, in the meeting about, and I know that you've sent me some information, I just didn't have that email in front of me, about any guidance for those who are turning 19 and end up losing their Medicaid coverage due to needing to change to the adult long-term Medicaid. You know, when those waiver services, they get put on pause. Is there, and I
Yeah,
know you all have done some proactive work and stuff. Would you mind just to kind of share that with this team? I think it was Patty that had put
sure.
that in the chat.
Yeah, so a couple of the specific things that we've done to try to assist families with that specific issue, because it is a big issue. It's been an issue for a very long time. We created a specific notice that goes out to individuals who are 18, who have a waiver level of care and may need to keep that waiver into adulthood, advising them of next steps as to who to contact, how to establish a contact with SSA to go ahead and get that determination piece started for disability, in order to maintain the correct Medicaid to remain eligible, in and have their waiver services. The another piece is that individuals who are losing SSI coverage, we created a specific renewal packet for those individuals, whereas there was never one before. And so they're notified ahead of time. They're given this chance to be renewed on all bases for Medicaid to see if they can remain eligible, despite losing that SSI disability determination. And that's just a couple of the things that we've done very recently, within the past year or so. But we're always open to more suggestions, obviously, above and beyond just communicating that that is a requirement. What can we do to help? If you all have any suggestions, we're always open to hearing those.
Patty, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask that question because I used to be a case manager, dealt with it then. I deal with it now as behavior support provider as well. Um, is there like anything that you can send out to the providers, like a guide list on this, especially like with the case managers and things like that, or something? Because the case managers are, us more day-to-day providers are the ones who see these clients the most often, but we have no knowledge really. Like I'm like, you have to apply for SSI, you got to go through this and that. And then sometimes they get thrown into a medical review and it's a year later before things get adjusted.
Sure. So
So
it
is
sounds like
there
I'm
like
hearing
like a
maybe
guide?
guidance. Okay. Yeah, guidance specific for the providers or the case managers kind of is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, just so we,
Sure.
case managers and other providers can maybe we kind of understand here's the steps that you need to do to be able to tell those families, because yes, they might get something at 18, but like right now we have an 18-year-old who is about to turn 19. He lives on his own and he probably has no clue where that paperwork is because they're not always the best with their paperwork. So if the providers, case managers maybe also have this guide on here's the steps you need to take once you turn 19, some things you can start at 18 to make this a smoother process, I think that would be helpful for so many people to not be dropped or in lose the waiver. I've had clients who just haven't been able to get through the process and then they lose the waiver because they can't get their Medicaid stuff figured out.
Sure, Patty. Yeah, that's understandable and that's a great suggestion. We'll definitely take that back and see what we can do.
Okay.
Any other questions on the topic that Johnny brought up? I don't see anyone else. Do you, Aaron?
I do not, and the chat is clear.
Okay, good. Any other announcements or discussion of any general matters? Okay, the next thing on the agenda is any call for recommendations. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is MAC meeting representation. I did attend the most recent MAC meeting and presented a recommendation from the last meeting that we had. The next meeting for the MAC is tentatively scheduled for July the 23rd. We don't know if they're going to hold that schedule or not. Apparently, the MAC is going to be all new for the July meeting that takes place with the MAC. So, or the June meeting, I should say. Or the July meeting. It was scheduled for July the 23rd, but we don't know if it's going to take place then or not. It will be according to the newly established MAC, and they're waiting and forming a lot of different things based on the newly formed BAC committee. So,
Wayne, if you'd like, I could give a brief update
sure,
on
go
that.
ahead.
There is an email out to the MAC members. I believe Dr. Schuster is hoping to hold one last MAC meeting. That MAC meeting, per the federal rule, will have to take place prior to 7/9. So I sent them a few dates prior to that. And as soon as I get information, we'll have that out to everyone. They do plan on trying to meet in July. The new MAC, as you were letting everybody know, due to final rule, CMS has required us to start a beneficiary advisory council. Due to that rule, the BAC is required to meet before the MAC. They are looking to possibly start mid to end of September. So my guess is the rest of the MAC meetings throughout this year are going to change. The BAC is required to meet before the MAC. And as we start to establish the BAC, all those applications were due on May 29th. They are being processed and reviewed. The commissioner will appoint. So once we have members, the DMS staff, myself included, will start reaching out to those members and discussing meeting times, cadences. The MAC may also change to quarterly meetings depending on how the BAC wants to meet. So it's in the process. I believe by July 9th, we have to have a full new MAC member list listed on our website per CMS. Excuse me. So that should be out soon.
Okay, anybody got any questions in reference to that for Aaron? Thank you, Aaron. I was struggling to explain it to everybody because it's just kind of a jumbled mess right now.
It is a bit up in the air. On my side, it's a little exciting because we've, put in all the back work for a year, and then the applications went live and they started coming in. So it's more of go time, for us. So it's exciting to see that when you work on something for so long to start moving.
All right. Any other questions on that? Okay, the next meeting date will be August the 5th, 2025, 10 a.m. via Zoom. Anybody have anything to say before we close? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you for attendance.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.